going to talk about 3 basic styles of paragraphing. Now, this might be really back to basics for you, or you might be in the camp that says, listen, I know that paragraphs are a thing. I know I'm supposed to have multiple paragraphs, but I'm really not sure how or where or what the secret is. If that's you, then today's video is for you as we figure out 3 types of paragraphs to organize your writing. To think about paragraphing and the basics of paragraph structure, I want you to imagine a beautiful garden. And the garden has lots of different flower beds. There's a flower bed for roses. There's a flower bed for marigolds. There's a flower bed for peonies. And as the gardener is planting her seeds, she keeps those similar flowers together, right? All of the rose seeds are going to go in the rose bed. And then when she's all done with roses, when she's all out, she's going to move on to the marigold seeds. And she's going to put all the marigold seeds in the same flower bed. And then when she's out of those seeds, she's going to move on, right? That's how the flower garden might be arranged. And all of those pieces, all of those beds, all of those flowers work together to create one garden. That is what your writing is like. Each paragraph is like a flower bed with a little border or fence around it that is holding in some ideas that you want to share. And when you're all done with that idea, then you can think about moving on to the next idea. And when you put all of those little flower beds, all those little fenced in areas together, they create one bigger piece of writing. So let's look at 3 very basic ways for you to begin thinking about paragraphing so that you can avoid the big monoparagraph, the piece of writing that's like 3 pages long, but just one giant jumbled up paragraph that has a little bit of everything in it. The first and very simplest type of paragraph that's going to help you organize your writing is the one idea, one paragraph approach. Now, this is what we learn first when we learn that paragraphs are even a thing. We learn that when we have one idea, or in this analogy, one type of flower, we put it in one paragraph by itself. So let's look at an example from Billie Jean King writing about Serena Williams in the New York Times. I've seen many generations come and go in tennis, and every time you see a great player retire, it's really difficult. But the news that Serena Williams is moving on from tennis is particularly hard because of what she represents. So what's the idea here? The idea is that when great players retire, it's really hard, especially Serena Williams, right? There's really just one big idea here, that it's really tough when a great player retires. It gets a little bit more specific when it mentions Serena Williams, but the idea here is singular. Now notice this is only 2 sentences. You might have been taught at some point that a paragraph has to be 5 sentences or it has to be 8 sentences. The truth is, it doesn't have to be any specific length to be a paragraph, but it does have to have an idea inside of it, right? Those fences around that idea. Here, the idea is that it's hard to lose a great player. And that is the only thing that this paragraph is communicating. So when you're writing, that could be the method that you use for paragraphing. Where do I have singular ideas? I'm just going to put little fences around them as paragraphs. Now, I just said that a paragraph doesn't have to have a certain number of sentences to qualify as a paragraph, and this is a prime example. This is the opposite of that giant monoparagraph, right? In the single sentence paragraph, a writer is sharing just one sentence that encapsulates their idea. And usually it is something powerful and arresting and maybe even a little bit surprising. It's something that the writer wants to stop a reader in his or her tracks. So from that same article, Billie Jean King does this. Here is her single sentence paragraph. I had Serena serve that day and I told her, don't change a thing. Her idea here is that even from the first time she met Serena Williams as a child, Serena's serve was just about perfect. That's the idea. And she says it in one sentence, and then she moves on. It causes us to kind of stop and whoa, put on the brakes and pay attention. And for that reason, the single sentence paragraph maybe should be used a little bit sparingly, right? That one idea, one paragraph method we just talked about could be your everyday, your regular. And this is your special occasion paragraph, the whoa, I want to stop everybody and make them pay attention real fast. So I'm going to say my idea in a single sentence, in a paragraph by itself, and stop all my readers in their tracks. The last method is a little bit more advanced. It's a little bit harder. And that is the one idea, multiple paragraphs and transition method. That's a mouthful, isn't it? When we use this method, we have the single idea, single paragraph, but then we have more to say. So here in that same article by Billie Jean King, we can see it. In 1970, I was one of the original 9 women players who, with Gladys Heldman, created our own tour. That was the birth of women's professional tennis as we know it today. Then in 1973, I founded the Women's Tennis Association. We wanted to make it possible that any girl in the world who was good enough would have a place to compete, not just play, compete. We wanted to be appreciated for our accomplishments, not only our looks, and we wanted to be able to make a living playing tennis. And so Serena is living our dream. When I watch her, I think, thank you, God. She's been an amazing representative, a fantastic leader helping women, particularly women of color. She's not afraid to speak her truth. So Billie Jean King actually had a big idea here. She wanted to share the background of women's tennis, the female players that came before Serena, what was at stake, what they did to elevate the game of tennis, that Serena is the prime example of this coming to fruition, and how Serena Williams does it. That is a lot, too much, one might say, to contain in a single paragraph. So Billie Jean King takes that one idea, the one idea being that Serena is the fulfillment of the dreams of the female players that came before her, and splits it into multiple paragraphs. She gives us the context and background part, and then the Serena part. And there's a transition in between. Let's look at it. We wanted to be appreciated for our accomplishments, not only our looks, and we wanted to be able to make a living playing tennis. And so Serena is living our dream. Now we have another mini move about using those contrasting words as transitions, but we'll often see that when a writer is taking one idea and spreading it into multiple paragraphs, they use one of these conjunctions in order to do it. Now, there are lots of other transitions that you could possibly use, but I want to show you this because it's such a great, easy trick that works every time. So in this one, we have and, which signals to the reader, I want to say some more about this. Here's another example from a different article, this time by Pamela Paul, writing for the New York Times, about so many sequels in pop culture. She says, not all repeat performances need to be a recurring nightmare. One of the pleasures of watching a sequel or long-running show, for example, is settling into the sofa with the same cast of characters we hung out with last time. Viewers segued from 5 seasons of Breaking Bad to 6 of Better Call Saul for a reason. We want to spend more time with these people. But notice that conjunction again as the transition. But that doesn't mean everyone's welcome on that sofa. Even beloved characters or the real people behind them ought to consider a few basic rules about if, when, and how to reappear. So how do we get from the idea that we like returning to the same characters sometimes, but not always? Well, by breaking that big, long idea into 2 parts and adding but between them to show that contrast is about to happen. So I want you to think about your own writing. Where in your writing do you just need to break the piece into some simple paragraphs? One idea, one paragraph, like that flower garden where each flower gets its own separate flower bed. Where do you have a short and powerful idea that you want to express as a paragraph that's just one sentence to grab your reader's attention? And where might you have a longer idea, an idea that really deserves time and space to dig into, but you don't want to create a giant paragraph all over the place? So you can break it up You can break it into multiple pieces and use some conjunctions like and, so, or but to help you connect those pieces.